brought to you almost live from the Dude in the Basement Studios. Why? Because that's where the good stuff is. It's Sips, Suds, and Smokes with your smoking hosts, the good old boys. Suds, Suds, Suds. It's time for more Suds.
It is definitely time for more Suds. Welcome to this episode where everything good in life is worth discussing. I am one of your hosts today, good old boy Mike, and joining me is good old boy Darrell from the Ohio Beercast.
Well, I guess that's me today, huh?
Yeah, that's most definitely you. Our Sud segments are all about beer, and more beer. Darrell's also the host on another podcast, Ohio Beercast, and he has a compadre that joins him on there, Mark, not to be confused with our Reverend Mark. You'll get to hear more about the Ohio Beercast at the end of our episode today. We'll be discussing beers from the Columbus, Ohio area today. And that's probably the last time I'm going to say Ohio, because the rest of the time I'm going to go O-H-I-O. There we go. How about that? The beers we're going to be talking about today are Jackie O's, Paw Paw Wheat, Elevators, Big Vic Imperial IPA, Seventh Son, their Humulus Nimbus, and polishing off this group is Columbus Brewing's Bodhi. So Darrell's going to get the honor of going over our Suds ratings for today.
Well, thank you. We'll be tasting and discussing these beers and rating them with these Suds ratings, plus our signature belching sounds. And here are those ratings now. We'll start off with number 1. That sucks. Give me another Bud a Bud. Number 2. Was that a belch? Number 3. Ah, what a relief. Number 4, I relate with, a body should really not make that sound.
We all have a friend that make those sounds.
And number 5, listen to that hang time, give me another.
Very much, Darrell, for going over our Suds ratings for today. We picked these beers because they have some good regional availability and a good sample of beers in the Columbus area. A quick acknowledgement of some great places to find these beers in the Columbus area. So, 2 really great places in Columbus itself. Wayland's Market, we have paid a visit there in the past, and they have a really great selection in their bottle shop area. Actually, it's a whole grocery store, but they have a separate area for their liquor and beer. They also have a growler bar that's set up at Wayland's as well. A really great place, very knowledgeable staff, most definitely. And then there's Crafted Drafts, which is actually out on the east side of town. And a great selection as well there. I believe they have a growler set up in there. So some really great bottle shops in the Columbus area where you can actually find most of the beers we're going to talk about today. So let's get right to some beer for sure. So up first is going to be Jackie O's Paw Paw Wheat. So this beer is from the brewery's called Jackie O's. They're out of Athens, Ohio, which is down in the southeast corner of Ohio. It's not quite in the Columbus area, but they really distribute very heavily in the Columbus area. In fact, I've seen Jackie O's on draft. I've seen it in bottles. And so it's very easy to find quite a bit of their beer in the Columbus area. The Paw Paw fruit is something we take great pride in. This is their description of it. The native fruit of Ohio. I didn't know that there was such a thing, but anyway. And one that actually flourishes here in Athens. I think it probably froze to death if it was on a tree this week. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
A tropical fruit tree that grows in the temperate climate and produces a one-of-a-kind experience. Flavors of mango, banana, and a touch of melon. In 2003, our good friend Kelly Sauber brewed the first Paw Paw beer utilizing locally harvested Paw Paw from the Integration Acres. We are now very proud to bring Paw Paw Wheat back and to all of you. or you all, or y'all, if they hopped across the Ohio River. So this style of beer is a wheat beer. It's actually classified as a radler, if you know what a radler is, or a fruit-style beer. Some of my tasting notes around this beer is, I guess the first thing that struck me was I actually wrote down Valencia orange, was the thing that I smelled and tasted in this as well. And, this is a very unique flavor, I would say. And another sip for me. It's, I think it's a bit malty, as well. That's probably the things that struck me with Jack Yo's Paw Paw Wheat. I think if I were probably sitting at a table and, there were some other people I knew that liked a wheat beer, I don't know that this would be in the same style that I would consider probably other wheat-style beers, mainly because of the fruit presentation in this as well. So, good beer. My Suds rating for Jack Yo's Paw Paw Wheat is going to be 3. What a relief. All right, Darrell, you're up. So what do you think about Jack Yo's Paw Paw Wheat here?
Well, I will first say that I am not a huge wheat-style beer to come right off the bat, to be honest. But when you first taste it, I definitely got the touch of the banana in the front end of it. Not so much a melon, but I definitely would say I can taste like mango in there in the back side of it. I will say I am from Ohio. I've never had the Paw Paw outside of a beer, so I'm not sure exactly what it's supposed to taste like per se. But it's definitely, I would say, one of the better wheat beers that I've had, and it's a little bit weird to think of like what time of year it's out now, because we're definitely in the fall, and the Paw Paw is a fruit that only comes out in the fall, so it's always going to be later in the year that you get it, when you traditionally expect like a wheat more in the late spring, summer type area. But I would definitely say that this is a beer that, if you want that heavy fruit flavor, but you're not used to wheat, this would be a good one to get you going into that area. Almost like playing on the traditional wheat beer, at least in the Ohio area wheat. My limited knowledge thereof, sorry. And I think I definitely agree with you that I would go with a number 3 rating for this. What a relief! Because, like I said, I'm not a huge wheat beer guy.
Cool. How about that?
Definitely.
So, Darrell, you're going to cover our next one here.
Yes, we are going to be heading to the next beer, which is going to be coming out of Columbus, and also in a can, the Seventh Son Humulus Nimbus. And Seventh Son, this is their second year in business, and they have been doing really well in the Columbus area. And this is a what they call a super pale ale, a golden pale ale that is both super crisp, super hop forward, with a refreshing mouthfeel and summer-friendly 6% ABV. They have a mosaic of Simcoe hops, lend a tart blueberry and fragrant pine to a pleasing bitter dandelion finish. I would definitely say I cheated ahead of time and had this a few nights before. And the first thing that comes to mind is I don't know the difference between a super pale ale and a double IPA. It kind of tastes into that same genre to me.
Yeah, most definitely.
But I definitely like it because I don't necessarily taste the blueberry, but I definitely taste like a wildflower or dandelion. I think, as I mentioned before, it's like licking a dandelion, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, people make dandelion soup, but dandelion beer all the time.
Sure.
And I would definitely, rating this, I would definitely put this up on the high end. I would, because I'm a huge IPA fan, I would at least give this a number 4. A body should really not make that sound.
How about that? Yeah, so this is also distributed in a can, and we're huge fans of the can here on Sip, Suds, and Smokes. And, this was a beer that I believe they just recently started distributing. So some breakdown of a couple things on this is the ABV is 6% on this beer. And the hop bill is the one thing that really caught my attention is the Mosaic and Simcoe. Because the Simcoe is really very forward in the hop profile for this beer. So the IBU count that they have on here is actually 53, and I think that's a little low, personally. When I've tasted it today, it was very floral, very bright, and I think that's one of the things that I actually wrote down first, which is what is the difference between super and IPA? because it's actually labeled as a super pale ale, and I would say that this is definitely an IPA all the way. I don't know that I would throw it in the double category, mainly because of the ABV. I just don't think of it's really probably as a low gravity presentation, for being classified as a double or an imperial would be my guess.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, but I think flavor profile gives the IBU kind of reminded me of that, but I could have messed up my taste buds earlier too. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, a really great beer, and I'm really glad we got to review it today. My Suds rating for 7th Son Humulus Nimbus Super Pale Ale is going to be a 3. What a relief. Great beer, and I would definitely say the fact that it's in a can, it'll probably make its way to another event of ours at some point in time. Well, we've covered a couple of good beers here, so we're going to take a quick segment break here. We'll be right back with our last 2 beers. Hey, thanks for coming back and joining us here on Sips, Suds, and Smokes. Today we're talking about beers from the Columbus area, and joining me, good old boy Mike, is good old boy Darrell from the Ohio Beercast as well. So we've covered a couple of beers, and we have a couple more to cover today. So next up is going to be 2 beers that are actually double or imperial IPAs, but they are vastly different in terms of the hop profile. Our next beer is from Elevator Brewing. It's called Big Vic's Imperial IPA. So Big Vic's is made in Columbus at Elevator Brewing Company, and the ABV on this is 8.6%, I believe is what I'm reading here. A quick description from the brewery is, our brewmaster Vic is a man of few words. He lets his amazing... more beer, please. Let's try that one more time. Our brewmaster Vic is a man of few words. He lets his award-winning beers do the talking, and this one has a lot to say. Big Vic features a rich, subtle, hazy, amber color and vibrant hop-driven aromas and flavors of grapefruit, pineapple, peach, and pine. With a medium to full body, it's dry hopped with Citra to create a bold, hoppy wheat IPA hybrid that works. Knock one back for Vic. Man, I really screwed that up. But anyway, I'm sure after I had probably 3 or 4 of these, I probably could read that correctly. So, Big Vic is distributed in a bottle, and I wonder if the label features this guy with a big mug and a kind of a big red beard. I wonder if that is actually visual representation of Big Vic himself. The beer itself is it's very has a very bright hop. It's actually very malt forward, and the Citra is really very forward in this. In fact, I can tell that that's probably the vast majority of what you're really tasting is almost a single profile hop grain bill in terms of just having Citra. If there's something else in this, I'm really not tasting a whole lot, because you really kind of taste a bit of that grapefruit bitterness in this. I think in the hallows of Imperial IPAs, I don't know that I would probably consider this one of my favorite Imperial IPAs, and for that reason, my Suds rating for Elevator Big Vic Imperial IPA is actually going to be a 2. Was that a belch? So, Darrell, have you had a chance to have Elevator, or any comment about this particular beer? I know this is one you didn't have a chance to pick up for the show here.
No, I've actually never had the Big Vic's Imperial IPA. I have been to Elevator many times because one of the guys who help out on the Ohio Beercast used to live down the street from them, and I have had the pleasure of interviewing the owner. His last name escapes me, but his name is Dick, and really nice guy, always sitting at the bar. Usually, I would say beers are really good. They're very well received, and when you go in on a Friday, Saturday night, it's packed wall to wall. And they are called Elevator because they used to work out of an old grain mill that had an old grain elevator working through it. So,
I think they're probably one of the older breweries in the Columbus area as well, if any memory serves me at all. So
I think they're close to 15 years in the area.
Yeah.
Since they've been officially downtown, it's probably closer to 8. But they have been around in the greater Columbus area for that long.
Well, I think the only thing that's missing from this beer is I think they should actually have probably the one of the Ohio State fight songs playing behind this beer, because imagine being around that long time that you would at least hear some aspect of Ohio State playing with some of these beers in some respects. So, and that strikes me as probably the right thing that is missing from this beer, because if it had good music, it would probably work a lot better. It's probably a good tailgate beer, I'm betting as well.
With a lot of people in the background yelling OH.
I-O.
There it is.
Most definitely. All right, Darrell, you have our last beer we're going to cover here.
All right, our last beer is from the Columbus Brewing Company, or CBC for short, as many people call it. And this is the only beer that Mike could not try today on the show because the Columbus Brewing only distributes this in keg. Now, Wylands has a growler stand.
That sucks.
Yeah. As I've heard Mike pontificate about this issue many times. Wylands actually has a growler stand, and they serve this on tap there. They also have CBC also has another Imperial IPA called Creeper, and both of these beers recently won awards at the Great American Beer Festival.
Oh, most definitely. And that's probably actually one of the pictures I'll put up is the brewer from Columbus Brewing. He was there walking like right off the stage and then right back to the booth. And so he actually walked right in just as I stepped up to actually enjoy both these beers at the Great American Beer Festival. So I'm telling you, he was tall and proud, and he was like, absolutely have my beer.
Definitely, and it's a husband and wife team that recently bought over the Columbus Brewing Company about 3 years ago, and they've been hitting it with gangbusters. So a little bit about this beer for people who don't know. They call this pale colored with a citrus aroma, double IPA, Bodhi, a Sanskrit word traditionally translated in English as enlightenment. This double Indian Pale Ale is loaded with American hop character and is sure to awaken your senses.
You read that much better than I do.
My English classes are finally paying off.
Oh, I need more beer.
And so, when you pour this, it is a pale golden. You can very easily see your fingers through it, and 2-finger, pretty good foam head on top when you pour it. Mine not so, because I've had it in the fridge for a few days, and I went the route of bottling it myself because I didn't want to have to drink it all in one shot.
Oh, that's cheating.
I know, it is. And with toasted malts and
you have my mailing address, correct?
Yeah, and light caramel. And I will say, they do list it available only in 50-liter kegs, so you have to go whole hog if you're jumping on that train. But
ship a bottle, a keg, either one will work for me.
Yeah. I will say though, if you think of a traditional double IPA, this is one that just hits it perfect in all aspects of it, and it does have a malt profile, but I definitely say that the bitterness jumps out at you right away and hits you, and the way I like to be hit by an IPA, soft and gentle and across the face, right?
Yeah, I would have to say there are a few IPAs I feel like I've been slapped with a wet fish across the nose, yeah.
But I would definitely say this is a 5 for me. Listen to that hang time, give me another.
Wow, I love that.
And maybe that's the Ohio State of me coming out. When I go to visit Columbus, this is the beer we have to get.
Well, I think the one thing that I can hear, they would be actually singing after every beer of this is sold. They're probably celebrating like they celebrate after every MSU game. So let's listen in here and see, how do people from OH Ohio, they celebrate every time they have something good. They sing this song. Well, we'll let you enjoy a little bit more of that in a moment. So, I've had a chance to taste Columbus Brewing Company. I mentioned I actually had this at the Great American Beer Festival, and I actually got to taste both the Bodhi as well as Creeper right back to back. Both of them were right there. And they actually came away, I believe, they walked away with gold in one of those categories. I think they walked away for Bodhi was the one they walked away for gold, and I think Creeper came in with silver. If I got those backwards, I'm sorry. But really great hop profile. And I think the thing that I remembered most was just really intense. And a pleasant bitterness to this. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people think, that just because you have a great IPA that it has to have a high IBU. And I will tell you, I've had a lot of things that have, 110 IBUs or real hot bombs, and I wouldn't necessarily put those in my favorite beers, by any means. And so it's a delicate balance between the measure of bitterness that you're really bringing to create a really great beer. And that's the thing I really liked about Bodhi is it just had a really great blend that in the bitterness itself, and it was very, very pleasing. You've already revealed a bit of my dead giveaway. That the only thing I'm really pissed about this beer is that they don't sell it by the truckload. And I really need to get them distributing just in a can to start with. That would be really great because my ability of moving a growler around or rebottling, as you've done, is quite limited. And so that's probably the only thing I miss about this beer is I miss the beer, and I really don't get to have it as much as I'd like. A really, really great IPA, and made right in the heartland, of America. Normally when I would taste this beer, I would go, "This is from Ohio," because it really has a presentation of something that's cutting between East Coast and West Coast hops. It's not doesn't have a piney resin to it, so I'd say it's probably closer to a East Coast style hop itself. But just a really, really great beer. My Suds rating for Columbus Brewing Company Bodhi is actually going to be 4. So that is a really great beer, and I would say if you have a chance to pick up a growler or you're sitting at some place where they have it on tap, don't pass that up, because you will not be able to find it in a store or have another chance to enjoy it for sure.
I will say, though, some people might get confused if they visit Columbus. There's a restaurant called the Columbus Brewing Restaurant. They are not necessarily the same place.
Yeah, I noticed on their web profile that there is some affiliation between them. I think that they actually supply the beer to the Columbus Brewing Restaurant.
They supply some of it, but not necessarily that you can get Bodhi there, and that relationship is going to be changing in the near future.
Well, there you have it. New scoop, and probably more accurate to my understanding, actually just looking at it through their website for sure. Thanks, Darrell. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Well, really great stuff today that we've got to cover here on our Columbus show, and we're going to wrap it up for our today's Suds episode. Thanks to all of our listeners on Sips, Suds, and Smokes. You can catch all of our episodes online on iTunes, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube, Uncle John's Basement, and Spreaker, our native media host. Our terrestrial radio stations are always expanding, and if you'd like to hear them on your favorite radio station, call them and say, OH!
I-O!
and ask them to put this show on the air. You can reach us anytime online. Our email address is info@Sips, Suds, and Smokes. Our daily tasting notes fly out on Twitter every single day. @Sips, Suds, Smoke is our handle. Our Facebook page is always buzzing with lots of news. Listen, do us a favor and take the time to rate this episode if you're listening to us online. That's a big help. Helps us get to the top of a lot of great search engines, and other people will be able to find us, so we get to see your feedback as well. I definitely want to thank my co-host today, Darrell from Ohio Beercast, for joining us. Darrell, tell us a little bit about the Ohio Beercast and how listeners can actually catch more info on beers in Ohio.
Well, the Ohio Beercast, we are working on our sophomore year of production. We have been going at this since March of 2013 or 2012, and basically it's a podcast where people can learn about Ohio beer culture, events, openings and closings. Basically, we stay within the state of Ohio, but we do kind of expand out where we've interviewed places like Stone Brewing Company and a few others throughout the state, whoever's kind of catching our ear. And it's a lot of fun. We try not to take ourselves too seriously because if you ever saw a picture of us, you would understand why. We're not normal folk looking.
I can totally relate. Yeah. I know why it's not a video show.
And if people do want to learn more about it, they can visit our website, theohiobeercast.us, where we have all of our links to our iTunes network and all that fun stuff.
Well, I had a great pleasure of actually being on the Ohio Beercast, one of the beer blogger Google Hangouts recently, and that was a lot of fun. And it's great to talk with other people that know beer in the Ohio area, and maybe I'll pop in on there from time to time, and I'm sure you'll get to hear more from Darrell and Mark, on a future show here on Suds and Smokes as well. Darrell, thank you again very much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun, and I greatly appreciate it.
Thanks. Well, again, thanks to all the listeners for joining us for this episode. This is good old boy Mike asking you to keep on sipping.
This has been a One Tan Hand production of Sip, Suds, and Smokes, a program devoted to the appreciation of some of the finer slices of life. From the Dude in the Basement Studios, your hosts, the Good Old Boys, will see you all next time.